Hi, I'd like to share a meditation and self-realization communication with you. It's a deep reflection on the inner self and what I consider to be the greatest human potential, one that gives us a fulfillment, an inspiration, a creative energy, a self-knowing that goes beyond the normal physical life, also beyond death. Because life and death are contained in our present perception, our present experience from moment to moment. If we can go beyond the structure and form of our experiences, our perceptions, our feelings, our thoughts, if we can sink down into a deeper state of consciousness and really know what that is for ourselves and as life, there's such a tremendous benefit waiting, latent within everyone. And it gives a direct sense of oneness or unity with life itself. Life itself, not just in its forms, in the forms of nature and experiences, which can be tremendously beautiful and pleasing, or horrifically nightmarish, painful, and all the rest. But the pure state doesn't have that duality of pain and pleasure. What I talk about is the pure state, and what I invite you to enter into as we have this conversation is the deep knowing that's within all of us, within you and I. It rests not in any location in the body, not in any imaginary fixed point, imaginary spiritual realm or psychological utopia, but it's at the heart of ordinary awareness. It's just that awareness gets projected and filtered into a duality of experience, common experience, some experiences that are really overcoming. We get completely caught up in them. But the essence of awareness is always there, waiting to be realized. It's that essence of awareness which is the essence of self and essence of reality. And rather than directing your attention trying to find it, there's a way of withdrawing the attention, as if you're retrieving your mind, retrieving your vision from the objects of vision, retrieving your senses from the objects of senses. It's as if everything is turned inward rather than outward. And when I say outward, I mean even the body itself and what we call the inner part of the body is still external to that pure point of awareness. And when I say a pure point of awareness, there's no point. It's both nowhere and everywhere, because it doesn't have a limited location, not in any kind of realm or any kind of conscious state or unconscious state or subconscious, or it's something completely realised by the individual, of course. But we can invite it, allow it, and also direct ourselves, our own attention, by seeing what it's not, or understanding or knowing what it's not. And when that single point of being, of realization, is your goal, then seeing what that is not immediately frees up your consciousness, your attention, from all those objects, desires, all the entanglement in pleasurable and painful experiences, and allows you to return to that single point of formless potentiality. In life, our apparent lives, physical body, being born into a family, struggling to find some kind of way of making a living, finding enjoyment, establishing some sort of security, pleasing the friends, peers, the family, the greater society, trying to understand the world. All these things are involved with a normal life. We can have tremendous expansive ideas about what we want to do with life. And strangely enough, we can also have very confined thinking and ideas about what life is, and simply what we need to do to function, to survive, even if we're going to survive at all. So all this is, whether you're involved with great ambition and attracting wealth or doing something great for society, or just your own most basic, simple little life that may have been quite beaten down and traumatized, and it seems like you don't have any options at all in life, and you're just picking out one rotten fruit from a couple of bad fruits, trying to work out which one's not as bad as the other. All this actually does happen in most people's lives. It happens in, for some people, almost their entirety of their life. It's a very subdued, negative, limiting situation throughout the whole of life until death. And for others, there's an up and down. Sometimes life seems cheery, bright, wonderful, a bowl of peaches and cream, and then suddenly there's just a pip stuck in your teeth, and there's nothing more. There doesn't seem to be anything more to go for. All this is just like a dream, isn't it? Like a dream of living and dying. When you think that we're all part of the same, physically, all part of the same existence, we're linked as humanity. We have diversity as individuals, as male, female, different ages, backgrounds, opportunities, no opportunities. So, not getting caught up in all of this, but still being able to see it for what it is. Read it like an amazing story, an amazing novel, an incredible human story and story of life. if we can find that freedom of stillness of observing, so that we can step out of ourselves, so to speak, there can be a tremendous change goes on the inside of an individual who can step back from their own lives. And I think we can all do this, and that's what I'm inviting people to do, because it's the most meaningful thing in life that I personally have discovered for myself, is to step out of the, if you want, the smaller ego wheel that keeps going around and keeps kind of entertainment going, negatively or positively. It's just like its own little energy wheel, goes round and round. Once you step back from that into a still space, where you're not going round like the hamster wheel, life is much more interesting. There's a whole new dimensions of experience and possibilities that open up and seem to appear from nowhere. We can really lock ourselves into a certain dimension of living, if you want to call it that, where you just keep going around in the same pattern over and over. There's a little variation here and there, but not that much difference. But if you can come to the middle, the still point in the middle, and observe the whole pattern, you enter into an entirely different, without volition, without choice, you enter into an entirely different dimension of being. And that can be just momentarily, can be a huge freedom for that moment. And even if that happens, just for a single moment, you step out of whatever cycle of life you're in and step into that immensity of which is at the source of your awareness, the source of your experience, the source of your life. But it's not caught up in all the goings on. So immediately there's a single moment of absolute freedom. And even if it's just for that moment, that's enough. Personally, I don't want it just for that moment. I want it as a way of life. And once you sense it for a moment, you think the question comes up, how can this be more of life, more of a human being's life, anyone's life? It needs to be integrated into daily life. How do we do that? When challenges arise, challenges, what do we turn to? Do we ask someone for help, someone for advice? Do we pick up a book, pray to a God? Or do we step back? Find a place within ourselves where we can self-observe, be self-aware. And if we use the energy of the problem. Because when you have a problem, there's an immediate challenge. You have to solve it. You either have to ask someone, you have to do something, otherwise it becomes unbearable. If we can use the energy of the problems we encounter in life, whether it's a simple problem of where do I get my money from to survive, where do I meet my latest health challenge, what do I do with my emotions, fears, are these things that come up, how do you relate to other people in your life. When these problems or challenges come up, what happens if we step back into ourselves? We use the energy to become self-aware. And we just view the situation as a part of the story of the whole of life. This is one way to go back into self-renewal. Back into a greater dimension of life, of self, of being. The other challenge, the other extreme parts of life is when we experience extreme joy. We have a sudden windfall, everything seems to work out really well. We get a kind of a joyful energy, a buzz. When we get that energy, what do we do with it? Do we say to ourselves, oh, this is just luck, or this is God's will, or this must be the fruit of my karma, something that I've done myself, some action, or what have you. Which is fine, but if we want to use it, that energy, to take us to a transcendental position, a greater state of awareness, of being, where that success, pleasure, energy, which doesn't last, it just kind of comes up overnight or instantly, like some kind of flash of light or mushroom growing out of the dark, and you only have that energy for a small period of time, then life changes into something else, becomes dull, or a tragedy happens, or you just become bored with that little success and start thinking about something else. But if we can use that energy, the positive energy, and we look to the source of experience, the positive experience, then this way of reflecting back inwards also can return us to that higher state of being, so we can incorporate that into daily life. So here's 3 examples. One of just sitting quietly, investigating life, the source of consciousness, of being, experience, and just coming back to that greater dimension within ourselves and having a realization. The other is when we're in the mode of encountering difficulties, problems, and negative emotions, so we turn inward and again to the source and get to that expansive dimension where it's just not hampered by duality of positive and negative energies or experiences. And the third one is when we're in a joyful state for whatever reason, and we look to the source of that joyful energy, that experience, and again we can re-enter the transcendental being. So that's all for this recording. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much. See you next time.